When we talk about intimacy, especially in a culture that often hypersexualizes it, there's one truth we often miss. The most unforgettable experiences don't begin with the body. They begin with the mind. A man who's truly built different knows this. He understands that a woman's deepest point of pleasure isn't physical, it's emotional. Before he ever touches her skin, he's already touched her heart. And that makes all the difference. See, it's easy to confuse desire with connection. Many men think if they bring enough stamina, technique, or flair, they've done their part. But the reality is, none of that matters if she doesn't feel seen, if she doesn't feel safe. A woman will open herself fully only to the man who first opens himself emotionally. And that's not weakness, that's depth. That's power. Men who are built different don't seek to conquer a woman's body. They seek to understand it. Not just the mechanics, but the meaning. They realize that real intimacy is layered. It's intellectual, emotional, spiritual, and finally physical. They approach her not with entitlement, but with reverence. She is not a checklist to complete or a performance to critique. She is a whole person, a story, a rhythm. And these men, they listen to that rhythm. They ask questions not just to seduce, but to connect. They listen not just to what she says, but to what she hesitates to say. They pick up on subtle cues, the way her energy shifts, the silence between her words, the tension in her breath. And instead of pressing forward, they pause. Because they know pressure creates fear, but presence creates trust. And trust is the gateway to true pleasure. You see, women crave emotional intimacy more than physical satisfaction. When a man makes her feel emotionally safe, when he holds space for her expression without judgment, when he values her needs as equal to his own, that's when she begins to melt. Not because he's doing something extraordinary, but because he's being something rare, emotionally attuned, deeply respectful, and fully present. This kind of man isn't afraid to slow down. He knows that rush is the enemy of connection. He doesn't need to prove anything because his confidence is grounded in something deeper than ego. He is intentional. He is attentive. And most importantly, he makes her feel like she matters. Not just for what her body can give, but for who she is. And here's what's powerful. When a woman feels safe, respected, and deeply understood, her body responds in ways no technique could ever force. Her walls lower, her senses heighten, her pleasure deepens. Because now she's not performing, she's participating. And that changes everything. So if you're a man listening to this, understand this truth. Real intimacy doesn't start in the bedroom. It starts in the way you speak to her, the way you listen, the way you show her through presence, not pressure, that she matters. Because at the end of the day, any man can make her moan, but only a rare man can make her trust. Be that man. Be built different. There's a certain type of man who understands that real connection is never rushed. He doesn't view intimacy as a transaction with a countdown timer. He views it as a sacred unfolding. Patience, for him, is not just a virtue. It's a form of communication. It says, I'm not here to take, I'm here to share. And when a woman feels that energy, when she senses that he isn't in a hurry to get somewhere, her body naturally begins to open up. Not because she's obligated, but because she feels safe. Too often, we associate masculinity with control, with dominance, with speed. But what many fail to realize is that the deepest pleasure is rooted in timing. And that timing has to be hers. A man who's built different doesn't impose his pace. He listens. Not just with his ears, but with his presence. He pays attention to the slow rise of her breath, the shifts in her mood, the silent language of her body. And instead of rushing to the destination, he surrenders to the journey. He knows anticipation is not a delay. It's a gift. There's something profoundly powerful about a man who can hold space, not just physically, but emotionally. Who can be in the moment without needing it to escalate. Who can touch, but not take. Kiss, but not claim. That kind of patience isn't weakness. It's mastery. Because it tells a woman, I value your readiness more than my urge. I'm here for your yes, not just my moment. And let's be honest, most women are not used to that. They're used to men rushing, pressing, pushing, past signals in pursuit of satisfaction. So when a man does the opposite, when he slows down, checks in, even stops if needed, he immediately stands apart. He becomes unforgettable. Not just because of what he does, but because of what he doesn't do. He doesn't rush. He doesn't assume. He doesn't need permission to proceed because he's already earned her trust through restraint. What makes this kind of man rare is that he sees time as a tool of intimacy, not a threat to it. He understands that every second he waits with intention, every moment he delays to tune in more deeply, he's building anticipation, yes, but more than that, he's building trust. And trust is the foundation of a kind of pleasure that most men never experience. Not because it's inaccessible, but because they're too impatient to wait for it. And when a woman feels that kind of care, that kind of respect, she responds with a fullness that no amount of skill can force. Her openness isn't just physical. It's emotional, spiritual, total. That's not something you can demand. That's something you earn. Through time, through attention, through patience. So here's the truth. Any man can go fast, but the man who can wait, who can feel her energy and adjust his pace accordingly, is the one who touches her soul. That's the kind of man who's built different. And in a world full of speed, he becomes the pause she never knew she needed.
Awareness is the silent language of intimacy, and the men who are truly built different speak it fluently. They don't just show up with technique, they show up with presence. Their touch isn't mechanical, it's mindful. Because they're not focused on doing everything, they're focused on doing the right thing, asterisk, at the right time, asterisk. These men have trained themselves to pay attention, and in intimacy, that makes all the difference. You see, most men are taught to be performers. They're conditioned to believe that pleasure is about routine, about sequences, about formulas. Do A, then B, then C, and she should respond. But the truth is, women are not machines. Their energy, their emotion, they shift and flow, and a man who is emotionally intelligent knows this. He understands that her responses are not puzzles to solve. They are invitations to pay closer attention. Built, different men don't just rely on what worked in the past. They adapt. They notice when something feels off, when her body tightens, when her breath shortens in discomfort rather than pleasure. And instead of continuing on autopilot, they pause. They adjust asterisk, because their goal isn't just to finish, it's to connect asterisk. They don't confuse movement with progress. They know that what works is what asterisk works for her asterisk. In that moment, in that mood, in that state of being. And here's where the depth comes in. That level of awareness doesn't come from ego. It comes from humility. From a willingness to say, I may not know what she needs in this moment, but I'm willing to find out. These men ask. They observe, they listen with their hands, their eyes, their intuition. And in doing so, they make a woman feel something that is rare in today's stimulated world. Understood asterisk. Because the real seduction isn't in the act itself. It's in the awareness behind the act. The subtle way he notices how her back arches in response to a certain touch. The way he senses when to apply pressure and when to soften. The way he feels her shifts before she even speaks them out loud. That level of attention, it's rare, it's disarming, and it tells her that she can stop performing, stop directing, stop guiding, and just feel asterisk. That's when real intimacy begins, when a woman feels like she doesn't need to manage the moment, when she knows she's in the hands of someone who is with her, not just next to her. That's when her body stops resisting and starts responding, because she knows she's being read, not just seen. And this is what separates the average from the extraordinary. Technique fades, performance becomes forgettable. But awareness leaves an imprint. So if you want to be the kind of man she remembers long after the moment has passed, stop trying to impress. Start paying attention because at the end of the day, it's not about how much you do. It's about how deeply you notice . That's where the magic lies. That's what makes you built different. There's a fundamental difference between a man who touches a woman to feel powerful and a man who touches her because he understands how powerful she is. That difference shows up in how he sees her body, especially the most sacred parts of her. A man who's built different doesn't treat a woman's / GINA as just a source of pleasure. He sees it as something deeply intelligent, deeply sacred, and deeply symbolic. He knows it's not just anatomy, it's history, energy, life itself. And when he approaches her body with that level of reverence, it changes everything. You see, too many men are conditioned to objectify women's bodies, to treat them like trophies, to touch with a sense of entitlement instead of intention. But a man with depth, one who has evolved past performative masculinity, understands that every inch of her is a conversation, not a conquest. He doesn't come in with assumptions. He comes in with respect *, and that kind of energy. Women feel it immediately. Because here's the truth, her body remembers everything. It remembers how she's been touched, how she's been ignored, how she's been rushed or dismissed or used. A man who's truly built different knows this, and he doesn't add to that weight, he works to lift it. His touch doesn't take. It gives, it doesn't demand, it asks. He doesn't touch her because he wants access. He touches her because he wants to honor her. He's intentional. Every movement, every gesture carries meaning. He doesn't treat her sacred space as something casual or transactional. He treats it as the center of creation, of power, of trust. And because of that, he never assumes he's entitled to it. He earns his way there, not through manipulation, but through care. Through patience, through the consistency of how he shows up for her, inside and outside the bedroom. This is where true masculinity reveals itself, not in how forcefully a man moves, but in how gently he holds. It takes a rare kind of strength to handle something sacred without trying to control it, to touch without invading, to be present without possessing, and that kind of man, he heals with his presence. He affirms without words. He turns intimacy into a space of worship, not just release. And here's what makes it even more powerful. When a woman feels that level of respect, her body relaxes in ways most men have never even witnessed. She stops protecting, she stops second-guessing, she stops shrinking, and in that moment, she begins to bloom. Not just sexually, but emotionally, spiritually, completely. So if you want to be the kind of man who leaves a lasting imprint, not just on her body, but on her soul, stop thinking about what you can get, and start thinking about what you can honor . Because the truth is, any man can touch her, but only a rare one makes her feel sacred in the process. That's the man she never forgets. That's the man who's truly built different. When a woman genuinely likes you, she may not chase you in the traditional sense. She might not flood your phone with messages or blurt out her feelings. But she will initiate contact just in her own language, and if you're emotionally aware, you'll learn how to recognize it. Most men expect pursuit to look like direct effort, bold flirting, texting first, or asking to meet up. But many women, especially the emotionally intelligent ones, initiate with subtlety. They test the waters gently. Their approach is soft, because it's not rooted in desperation. It's rooted in curiosity, connection, and emotional safety. And that makes it even more powerful if you know how to read between the lines. A woman who likes you might not say, "I want to see you." But she will send you something she saw that reminded her of you. She may comment on a story you posted, ask you a question out of the blue, or accidentally mention something you once talked about. It's not random. These are asterisk breadcrumbs of interest asterisk. And every breadcrumb is her subconscious saying, asterisk, "I'm still here. Are you noticing?" Asterisk, sometimes it shows up as consistent responsiveness. She replies quickly, remembers details, and finds excuses to continue conversations even when they've reached a natural end. Other times, she may ask for your opinion on things she could easily decide for herself. Why? Because it's not about the answer. It's about asterisk engagement asterisk. She's not reaching out because she needs something. She's doing it because she wants a reason to connect. And here's where masculine presence becomes essential. A man who is emotionally immature might overlook or dismiss these small efforts because they don't fit his idea of pursuit. But a grounded man sees it clearly. He doesn't need her to chase him like a man would. He recognizes that for many women, initiation isn't about dominance, it's about invitation. She's giving you access. She's inviting you to step closer, and that's an act of trust. But you must understand this. If her subtle invitations are ignored, dismissed, or not received with warmth and presence, she will retreat. Not in anger, but in self-protection, because women don't initiate lightly when they truly like someone. It's emotionally risky, so when she sends that random message, when she shares that song, or when she asks how your day is going out of nowhere, see it for what it is, an emotional offering wrapped in modesty. Initiation, in her world, isn't about chasing. It's about asterisk nudging the door open asterisk, just enough to see if you'll walk through. So if you find yourself wondering whether she's interested, don't look for declarations, look for patterns. Look for moments where she makes the effort to include you in her world, even in small, quiet ways. Because when a woman begins to initiate, on her terms, in her language, she's not just being polite. She's reaching out with intention. And your ability to recognize and respond to that makes all the difference between a missed connection and a relationship that could have changed everything. One of the most powerful, yet often overlooked signs that a woman likes you is this: she begins to make room for you in her world. And I'm not talking about dramatic moves or public declarations. No, this gesture is far more meaningful because it's quiet, intentional, and deeply personal. When a woman sees potential in you, when she feels emotionally safe and intrigued by your presence, she subtly rearranges her life to include you. That's not coincidence, that's conscious choice. Think about this for a moment. People don't make space for what they don't value. We make time for what matters. We prioritize what we emotionally invest in. And when a woman likes you, even before she says the words, her life will start to shift to accommodate your presence. You'll see it in how she adjusts her schedule to align with yours. Maybe she suggests a time to meet that fits your availability, even if it's a bit inconvenient for her. She begins to include you in her daily updates, sharing not just what's happening, but how it asterisk feels asterisk. She invites you into the rhythms of her day, subtly drawing you closer to her inner life. And often, this isn't done with romantic labels. It's simply a pattern of consistency, inclusion, and effort. She may start introducing you to elements of her world, her favorite cafe, her weekend routines, or even, gradually, her circle of friends. These invitations aren't casual, they're relational. She's saying, asterisk, I see you fitting here. Asterisk, it means she's not just enjoying your presence in the moment. She's exploring the possibility of a shared future, whether spoken or not. Emotionally, she begins to invest. She remembers your preferences, checks in on things you care about, and begins to consider your perspective when making certain decisions. It might be subtle, like choosing a movie you once mentioned, or something deeper, like adjusting how she communicates based on your emotional needs. These aren't acts of obligation. They're signs of desire. She wants to make it easier for you to be part of her life because, in her heart, asterisk, you already are asterisk. But here's where the responsibility shifts to you. When a woman makes space for you, how you respond determines whether that space expands or collapses. If you dismiss it, ignore it, or take it for granted, she will slowly close that emotional door again. Not out of resentment, but out of self-respect. Because making space is an act of vulnerability, and women only keep open what feels emotionally safe. So pay attention. Look for the moments where she adjusts, includes, or shares with intention. These aren't just gestures of interest. They are signs of emotional alignment. And when you respond with presence, respect, and emotional clarity, you're not just accepting her invitation, you're honoring the depth of what it truly means. Because when a woman begins to make room for you, she's not just showing affection, she's offering possibility. And if you recognize it, nurture it, and match that energy, you don't just enter her world, you become a meaningful part of it.